Maiden speech. Aaron Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It is a privilege and a pleasure to stand here today on behalf of both the Market Town and the loyal and ancient borough of Newcastle-Under-Lyme. Or, as the local Facebook group has it, the proper Newcastle. Apologies to the honourable members opposite from Tyneside. But we are, and I will concede that not everybody knows exactly where we are. We are the historic trading centre of North Staffordshire. And it is a very proud history. We were given our charter by King Henry II in 1173, and we've been returning members to this place since 1345. And I want to just pay tribute to a couple of those former members here today. Firstly, my immediate predecessor, Paul Farrelly. Paul served in this place from 2001, 18 years. Like me, he was a grammar school boy, but he went to grammar school in Woolstanton in the constituency. He was a hometown boy who was very proud to represent his hometown, and they in turn were very proud of him, which is probably why we on this side found him such a tough nut to crack. His reports of his doom, impending doom, were frequently exaggerated, despite the best efforts of my friend, the Community Secretary, and many others. But unfortunately, Paul did part company with his constituents over the issue of Brexit. I recognise, Mr. Speaker, that the referendum put a lot of members of this House on both sides in a very difficult position. And I don't think any member should ever have to vote against their conscience on something so fundamental. So I think, although I disagree with Paul's votes, I do understand them, but I also think that his decision to retire was therefore a very honourable one, given the strength of feeling in Newcastle-Under-Lyme. And like Rocky Marciano, he therefore retires unbeaten. And I wish him well for the future, armed with his new Irish passport. I would also like to pay tribute to my Conservative predecessor in Newcastle-Under-Lyme, a Mr. Charles Donaldson Hudson. And if I tell the House that one of the issues that exercised Mr. Donaldson Hudson was the need to suppress the slave trade in Zanzibar, the House will appreciate that Mr. Donaldson Hudson is sadly no longer with us. But his retirement was also honourable. He decided that his services were no longer required when we were cruelly reduced from having 2 members of Parliament to just 1 by the Redistribution of Seats Act in 1885. So, mathematically inclined members will realise there has been a 134-year hiatus in Conservative representation for Newcastle. And the reason for that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, can be summed up by a 4-letter word, and that word is coal. Although mining has taken place in Newcastle since Roman times, it was the industrialisation of mining that led to the growth of the borough and the pit villages that grew up around the collieries in the late 19th and early 20th century. And our coal was some of the finest coal in the kingdom, Mr. Deputy Speaker. In fact, it is for that reason that the pottery kilns of Stoke-on-Trent are where they are, located just to our east. But sadly, the same geology that gave us that superior coal also meant that my constituency suffered some of the worst mining disasters in our nation's history. I think of Mini Pitch and of Holditch, and one of the first, the sad honour that came to me, one of my first civic engagements as a new MP was at the 125th memorial of the Dig Lake disaster in Audley Parish, and that was just last week. A lot of members in this House have spoken about coalfields in this debate. I think of my honourable friend and neighbour, the member for Stoke-on-Trent North, the new member for Bolsover on this side as well, and members on the other side, the one from Keenan Valley earlier this evening, and earlier in the debate, the members for Easington and St Helens North. And I want to reassure everybody in this House that those of us on this side who have been elected to represent coalfield communities, often for the first time ever or the first time in many years, we do understand and respect, we're very mindful of the cultural and industrial heritage that we have inherited in this place. Yeah. But coal is not the future, as we discussed last Wednesday. The future is in green jobs, in high-skilled jobs, and this is my area, in tech jobs. Unfortunately, Newcastle-Under-Lyme is very well placed on these fronts, not least because of the presence in my constituency of Keele University and its spectacular science park. Only last September, Keele secured University Enterprise Zone status, which will unlock a further £33 million of public and private sector investment in my constituency, and that in turn will support our local economy. And our local economy also needs supporting in the high street, to go back to the market town aspect of my constituency. which is why I'm particularly pleased that Newcastle-Under-Lyme will benefit from both the Future High Streets and the Stronger Towns funding. And I was privileged to be invited to join the Town Deal Board, and together with the Conservative-run Newcastle-Under-Lyme Borough Council, I look forward to lobbying the Ministry accordingly. Mr Deputy Speaker, to close on a more personal note, my parents are in the gallery this evening, and they, like their parents before them, and I'm sorry that my 99-year-old grandmother couldn't make the trip today, but they always stress the value of education, and that is something a number of members have also stressed in this debate. It is, I think, the greatest tool of social mobility that we have. And what I want to do in my time here and in supporting this Queen's speech today is ensure that every child in Newcastle-Under-Lyme and across the country, every young person can make the very best of themselves, can be the best they can be, and that we do, in the Prime Minister's words, level up across the country. And so I do look forward to supporting this Queen's speech, supporting the agenda, and making sure I represent the people of Newcastle-Under-Lyme in my time in this place.
Yeah.